to the show, Jay. Great to have you on. How you doing?
Great to be here, Mike. Thanks, man, for having me on, and I'm doing well.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's jump into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your story, kind of how you got into real estate and what you were doing before real estate?
Yeah, no problem. So before real estate, I was a football player, honestly. So I played football at University of Illinois. I know I'm talking to, I know Naeem's a Hawkeye country guy, but I think Naeem, you play at Rice, right?
Yeah, we both did.
And so, Illinois, born and raised in Champaign, and then went to school. I only had one offer for, college football.
Wow.
And I got offered by Illinois State to play tight end, but I really wanted to play linebacker. Ended up playing at Illinois and we were really bad for like our first 4 years. We won like 8 games in 4 years. Then my 5th year, we turned around, went to the Rose Bowl. We beat Ohio State, was #1 team in the country. And I just had a great year. And I was able to have some success there. Was an All-American, All Big Ten player. And then got a chance to go to the NFL. I was undrafted free agent. Never quite made it in the NFL. I was with 7 different teams in 4 years, 2 of those teams twice. So if you're ready for the Around the World tour, get ready right here. So it was the Minnesota Vikings, got cut from them, then went to the Carolina Panthers, got cut from them, then went to the Philadelphia Eagles, made their practice squad, then got cut. Then San Diego Chargers practice squad got cut, then went back to the Minnesota Vikings, made their active roster, and then their linebacker got hurt. So I was kind of filling in. The linebacker came back and I got cut. And then I ended up, dropping. I got hurt. And so I was for like 3 months, I was on what they call injury reserve. I had a foot injury, a really, really bad turf toe, which basically means I tore some tendons in my foot, couldn't push off my toe for like 3 months, and went to a league that's no longer in existence, but called the UFL, United Football League. I got some tape on there and got me back to the Chargers. And I ended up with the Raiders my last year. And unfortunately got cut too many times, had some concussions that year, and I was done. And so in 2012, I'm sitting there with a baby on the way and like never done anything else other than football. And I was scared and didn't know what to do. My head was hurting. My head actually had some post-concussion syndrome for about a year after that. And just bad headaches and ringing in the ears. But I got into sales, specifically network marketing with a health product called USANA, built that team up to be, hundreds of members on my team, thousands of customers, and became a really top leader in network marketing and building a team, recruiting, realized I like sales. And it was during that time that I got exposed to kind of the personal development space of, reading Robert Kiyosaki and Rich Dad Poor Dad and other things. And during that sales time, I went in, I think you guys have my brother, AJ Leman, on this podcast.
Yep.
He couldn't sell his house. He told the story, right? It backs up to I-80 in Coralville. And it was this little 0 lot. And, we bought him out of his house so we could have down payment for his house where he lives now. And, that kind of started what we were renting out, just 1 unit for 4 or 5 years. And then once I kind of, my sales career, as far as the network marketing stuff, started to fade, I started getting interested in real estate. And I started getting into my first property with some partners. My first property in Illinois was in 2018. It was a single family house for $20,000. And that's how I started, because I was probably too scared to do anything else. I didn't know what I was doing. And after I did that and invested for a year, I realized that I could have made $25,000 extra that year if I just had a piece of paper that said I was a licensed realtor. So I decided to become a licensed realtor in 2019, and I've been that for the last 3 years. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell, and happy to break that down further, but that's kind of how I got here.
Yeah, that's really, really interesting. So I just want to backtrack it just back to your NFL and collegiate, career, because obviously you were very successful. Like, you guys went to a Rose Bowl and you were a captain. Like, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's
but
awesome, man.
But what like, to take that next step, just because I'm going through it right now, I just want to know, like, what was kind of like your outlook on it? Like, what things did you learn with the whole process? And you're going team to team. And so, like, what are some advice, tips that you have?
Sure. I think the biggest thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think you're a defender, right?
Yeah, I play safety.
So I think the biggest thing on defense is, especially in the league, is you don't have any plays really designed where the ball comes to you, right? And the biggest thing I can tell you is it's not the coach's job to notice you. Your job is to have the coach notice you. And I tell that to people because you can get pluses all the time on your alignment and your assignment and your technique. But if you're not making plays, you ain't making the team. And if you're not healthy, they say you're not going to make the club in the tub, meaning if you're in the cold tub or in the training room, you ain't going to make the club. And so you got to stay healthy, and you have to make plays. I think that's difficult for a defender because you can really force yourself and really play outside of the concept of the defense and the framework. And, you can look bad sometimes, but in college, you have 4 years to develop, improve yourself. In an NFL, if you can't showcase yourself in 4 preseason games and 6 weeks of training camp, too bad. And some of it's just the luck of the draw. Do plays come your way or not, And so you've got to make plays as a defender. I think just the urgency of making plays from day one and not being a brother-in-law, meaning like the vets want you to be a brother-in-law, like meaning that I'm going to go easy on you, vet. I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to kind of, act like I'm going hard, but make you look good. You can't be that guy. You got to be a pest. You got to be a pain. You got to be like the guy that is just, they hate to practice against, and they're going to hate you in the locker room, but that's how you're going to make your team.
Wow, that was really good. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
I think, Mike.
Yeah. Correct me if I'm wrong, Jay, but your experience with the NFL is kind of most players' experience with the NFL. Am I wrong?
No, you're exactly right. I would say 40 to 50% of every NFL team turns over every year. You only hear about the top 6 or 7 guys.
Yeah, exactly.
Take most of the salary cap. You hear about the quarterback, the defensive end that gets paid a bunch, the left tackle, the running back, some great receiver they have, and a backer. That's about it. And then the other guys that are playing on special teams or backups, you don't hear a lot, or journeymen, and that's what I was. So it's not uncommon. I think it was hard for me because I was a guy that really, once I understood defense, I always gave great effort. I just wasn't athletic enough to make it at that level to really contribute like I needed to on special teams and all 3 linebacker spots.
Yeah, no, definitely.
But that's definitely how you stay in the league, though, is by special teams. That's kind of what I'm seeing. And people are just talking about that. So I appreciate your input on that. But I guess we can just kind of move on to the next part. You want to take it away, Mike?
Yeah. So getting into real estate, you were talked about how 2012, you're done with football, and then you get into sales. I do want to talk about sales, but we'll get into that after. But with real estate, you said your first property was what, $20,000?
Yeah. $20,000 property in Danville, Illinois. I know AJ mentioned that probably on his podcast, but I didn't know what I was doing. Right. But I knew I had to get in the game. I had seen what AJ had been doing. I bought some stuff jointly with him in Iowa, like a little 4-unit, little duplex. And I had seen and read that, real estate was a great wealth building tool. You read all these books and you listen to Bigger Pockets, or you listen to podcasts like Greenlight Real Estate, and you're like, I can do this. And no offense, but like the people I listen to were no brighter than me. And I'm no brainiac, but I'm like, dude, these guys are making good money doing it. And so I think I had the sound fundamentals. I read the book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. Great book. It's about the history of the Federal Reserve and how basically during every crisis since 1913, the government has printed money. And we've seen that lately, and how hard assets during that time will go up in value. And so that was a revolutionary book for just my educational purposes. I think about it probably 2 or 3 times a week. It's a long book, good on Audible, good to read. But I knew that I needed to get I knew I needed to get into something physical. I wasn't in love with stocks at that time, but I was like, let me just start with this. And it can't go down that much farther, right? And I think the cash flow was, I think I was renting it out for $589 a month, and so it wasn't great, but I was like, I'll start with this. And that was my first investment property.
Yeah, well, that's great that you brought up that book, because I've actually heard Robert Kiyosaki talk about that. So we'll make sure to add that in the show notes. But so you're doing deals, and we had AJ on episode number 3. So what does the dynamic, like talking more about the real estate side, what does that dynamic look like within your family? Like how many partners do you have? And then like, how are you funding the deals? What are you doing for the real estate investing like strategies?
Yeah. So there are really 4 or 5 partners in there, and they're all my either brothers or brother-in-law. I would say, AJ is really the main guy in Iowa City, where we have the bulk of our units, about 200 units at this time. And, I'm in Champaign, where we have about 60, 65 units. And my little brother, Corey, is in Chicago. We got an 11-unit property there. And so we're kind of the spearheads of all those. And then I got another brother, JD, and a brother-in-law, Mike, who are also equity partners in there. So the equity is kind of split up differently based on who does the work. And AJ took the lead, was really my inspiration. And I said, man, he's doing this, as a teacher, part-time, really unassuming guys, AJ, and just a great guy, and saw how he built relationships with the community, and was really humble in it, really exercised his faith in his real estate and in his teaching. I was like, I can do this too. And so I think I give him a lot of credit for letting me march forward. I probably wouldn't have done it without him. But that's kind of how it's broken down. I will say that, we'll be the first to tell you, we didn't get the equity stuff all figured out 100% correctly, because a lot of people do a lot of the work. Some people bring the money. Some people do a lot of different things. And so I think have that conversation earlier than later, because we've had it later rather than earlier. How do we fund the deals? I think that was another question. And that is, we had initial seed money that we put into the Iowa stuff, and initial seed money that we put into the Illinois stuff. And so I think we put in like combined 80 grand to buy 10 to 20 houses, 10 to 12 houses in Danville. That was like the down payment money. And out of that money, we have not added any more money into it. And we've grown it from, $0 to 0 units to 65 units off of that 80 grand. We've done four 1031 exchanges. We've done like 30 or 40 flips and wholesales combined, whatever you want to call them. So we've just taken that money and rolled it over and over again. And so, Kiyosaki talks a lot about the velocity of money. I didn't know what that was when I was starting out, but basically it's this: the more I can turn money over in a year, the better, right? So if you gave me a loan for 50,000 and I was able to wholesale a house and make another 25,000, I have 75,000 after 3 months. Now I take that money and I wholesale or flip another house and I make 30,000. I have $105,000. Now I take that 105,000 and I put a down payment on a $500,000 property, right? Like that's velocity of money. If I can turn it over and over, it blows the whole annualized return. Do I make 10%? Do I make 5%? Like that's a bunch of trash. It's really about the velocity of your money. How many times can I take that dollar and spin it through to make more money for me?
I love that. And can you explain what a 1031 tax exchange is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, it's in the tax code, and basically it's not just related to real estate. It's any a like kind exchange. It's often used in real estate where you hold a property for more than a year. And let's say I buy the property for 100 grand and in a year and a day later, I sell it for 150 grand. Well, that would be capital gains. Okay. So if I sell it before a year, that's ordinary income, just like a job, right? So I'm taxed the highest on that.
Well, that's 37%.
It depends on what your tax bracket is. I mean, if you're a high roller, it's 40%. If you're a low roller, it's nothing, right? I mean, so 47% of the people in the world, in the US rather, don't pay income tax. Okay. So it could be 20 to 40%, whether you're at. If it's a capital gains, it's usually going to be 20%, meaning I've held it for more than a year. But man, if I make $50,000 and there's a capital gains tax on it, then I'm gonna have to pay 10 grand, because 20% of $50,000 gain is 10 grand. What if I say, you know what, if I'm going to roll it into a bigger property, another property that's equal or greater value to what I just bought, then I actually don't have to pay any taxes on that. It's tax deferred. Okay. So it's tax deferred me. I don't pay any tax on the gain. I can use all that profit as a down payment on next property, and I can keep it in there forever, only until I realize it. But I can keep 1031ing that money over and over, deferring. And what a lot of guys do is they defer it until they die, and they give it to their kids. And when you give it to your kids, you get something called a step up basis, where the property is then valued at the value of your death. So I bought this $100,000 property, and I say I 1031 it a ton of times. I never paid taxes on it. And then the property I finally get, it's a big apartment complex, 30 units. It's $1 million, but depreciates to $3 million. And then I die. Well, I should pay a bunch of taxes for all that stuff, but I don't, because the step up basis, my kids get to inherit it at a $3 million property. And if they sell it, they only pay taxes on that step up basis of that property. So if they sell it for, 3.1 million, they're only going to pay taxes on $100,000, because the step up basis was 3 million. I'm not an accountant. Don't take my advice. Ask your own accountant. But that's the layman's terms for you of a 1031 and step up basis.
Love it.
Wow. I obviously we've talked about 1031s, and that was awesome rant right there, by the way. Hey Jay. But the step up basis, I'd never heard of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, that's what a lot of these guys do. Honestly, if you look into it, Donald Trump actually made a lot of his wealth because, his dad, Fred Trump, if you look into what Fred Trump did, he was a builder and he built houses at first, but then he actually got into affordable housing in Queens and Brooklyn and had 20,000 units of affordable housing. When he died, he had rolled a bunch of stuff in 1031s, and the kids got step up basis for the property. And so they inherited this money and never had to pay tax on it. It was smart. I'm not against it, but that's where a lot of the wealth came from, was from Fred Trump and his ability to actually do affordable housing in New York City, which was pretty fascinating.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, I think that just shows the power of having like people on your team that know, what they're doing, especially if you have good accountants and stuff, you can get really solid advice that can set you apart.
Yeah, I think it's a great point, Naeem. I mean, you talk about your accountant, you talk about your real estate attorney, and you talk about your insurance. And I've talked to all three of those people in the last 24 hours. And my banker, I've talked, so those are some of your and your property manager. So those are kind of your fearsome five right there, your banker, your property manager, your insurance guy, your attorney, your accountant. You're going to have to build that team up. And I think that's intimidating for a new person to start, but ask somebody who's done it, like if I was you guys, I wanted to buy something in Iowa City or Mike, wherever you're at, and you say, what, AJ, who should I talk to? And he could give you a couple names.
Yeah, that's really good stuff. So you've done a lot, obviously. You're up, what was it, 250 units, you guys said?
Yeah, roughly, 250 to 300.
Okay. So I kind of want to take a step back to where you started at the beginning, right? With 80 grand, and you had no units, and you used that 80 grand to go to 65 units. And what was the town it called again?
Well, Danville, Illinois, Champaign, Illinois. There's another little town in there we have an apartment in, but those are the two big ones. And Champaign-Urbana is a lot like Iowa City, Coralville. It's a twin city. Urbana's like the older part, where half the campus in, and then the newer part is kind of like Coralville is kind of like probably Champaign, kind of newer, kind of more modern, more space and whatnot. But what's interesting is the campus is right in between there of Urbana and Champaign. And so they're sandwiched in there. And then Danville is just a little market that is about 30 miles away. And it's an old industrial town. And so a lot of times, here's a little hack for you listeners. Like if you want to find value real estate, cash flow wise, you need to look in the industrial towns of the Midwest. The last couple of buyers I've had have been from Colorado, Florida, and Florida buying in Illinois. The Midwest is some of the best cash flow in the world for real estate. But some of these industrial towns, I'll give some in Illinois. So like Danville used to be home to a big General Motors plant. Decatur, Illinois used to be home to like Firestone, and it has ADM, which is the biggest soy giant, basically. Caterpillar is in Peoria. Moline is where John Deere's at, right? So some of these old industrial towns of the 1950s and 1960s, once very proud towns, are kind of depressed now economically. But there's value there. People still live there. There's still enough jobs there, and you can make great cash flow on it. The information-based towns have really become hot in the Midwest, and those are your university-based towns, right? So Iowa City, Ames, any other college-based town. I mean, even like Illinois State is a smaller school here, 20,000 people, but it's in Bloomington Normal, and that has a hotter real estate market. So information age stuff, education, has overtaken industrial, but there's a lot of cash flow opportunities in the industrial parts and cities of the Midwest.
Yeah. So that was kind of going to be my question, is how'd you guys go from those 0 units to 65? Was it cash flowing properties in the Midwest, which is obviously, historically been great, or was it, doing burrs, flips, or was it wholesaling, or was it all a combination of all those things?
So good question. So first off, I always recommend never bite off too much than you can chew on your first real estate deal. Do not do too much value add. You read a bunch of books, right? And you're like, I want to do value add. Dude, just get something that cash flows. Like, honestly, but I can tell you this. So we had those initial properties, and then I decided to raise money with a hard money loan and buy 6 of them. And I burred all of them basically. And I got all my money back, I think out of that, let's say I bought them for, I can't remember what the numbers were. Let's say I bought them for 250 and I put 50 into them, and it came back out at 400,000 basically. So I got my money back out and maybe a little bit something more if it was an 80% loan to value, so I, taking 320 out. So that being said, I did that. I tried to do a flip and manage a flip myself, and it was a disaster. Ended up losing. I tried to do a huge value add where like I was even trying to turn like this porch and transform it into like a master bedroom. And I was going to do this and I was going to do that. And it was just stupid. I ended up losing $40,000. My contractor was on drugs. I got 3 liens on the property. I didn't even know what a lien was. I never got lien waivers. Like if I ever have a contractor to come in, I know now that once they do work, I should get a lien waiver. And that's basically saying a lien waiver says I waive the right to put a lien on the property because I've done this work and you've paid me. And so I would pay these guys, and I paid this other guy, I paid the general contractor, but he was like, oh yeah, I'm paying all the subs. I took his word for it. I trusted, but I didn't verify. And what ended up happening was he never paid his subcontractors. I felt really bad about that, but I paid this guy all the money, and then the subcontractors put a lien on the property. Well, the problem was if there's a lien on the property, you can't sell the house and you can't refinance the house. So now I'm on a long-term hard money loan for 10%. The house isn't even finished. My general contractor's on drugs. He then disappeared. I've got these liens for stuff I've already paid for, but the general contractor took the money and I can't sell or refinance the house. And I'm losing money hand over fist. And I'm like, I want to quit real estate and I want to cry, which I did both. I wanted to cry. I was crying. I didn't quit, but I was able to it was interesting. I had to sell that property at a loss. And what I had to do was I had to do a seller carryback where I gave the guy the property for a price and I held back the down payment. So he got 80% loan to value. And then there was a second mortgage taken out where, I held back 20% of my profits. So the way that works is if you sell it for $200,000, he brings a loan for $160,000 and he has the second mortgage from me for $40,000. And what that ends up doing is he gets in the property for no money down. I only get 80% of the money that I have, right? And I have to wait in a secondary mortgage for the other $40,000. And that's what we ended up doing. And in order to get around the lien, I talked to the title company and I said, I can't get this lien settled. I'm trying to get it paid. I'm trying to negotiate because the subcontractor came back and was like, you owe me $14,000. I'm like, bro, I don't owe you $14,000. I paid the general contractor. But then when I talked to the lawyers, like, well, technically, because the general contractor didn't sign the proper paperwork, you didn't do that. You owe him that money. So we had to negotiate that. And in order to close the property, I had to escrow the money, meaning I had to, at closing, I didn't even get $160,000. I had to escrow 1.5 times what I owed, which I owed like 14,000. So I had to escrow like 26,000 until I could negotiate that with the contractor to get him paid off, get the lien off the property. It was a mess. I'm going really deep into this, but it was an absolute mess.
No, I'm glad you're sharing this with us because definitely we've had some people with some horror stories on, and like it's always really invaluable just to hear about your guys' experiences because you never knew this was going to happen to you. But I'm sure, you learned a lot from this and it's definitely helped propel you going forward.
Oh yeah, man, that was horrible. I wanted to quit. But after that, I got out of that property and, really haven't lost money since I got smarter about it and, have basically bird and sold. I sell packages of properties, 5 or 6 properties, usually in Danville, Illinois, to out-of-state investors or to local investors. I find them, I do some fixes on them, and then I package them together. I get them professionally managed by a management company. And then I basically just sell the cash flow. I'm like, okay, this is cash flow in X. Do you want to buy it? And a lot of people do. So to answer that question one more time, I don't mean to cut you off, is we then use the profits from selling those properties to roll into bigger apartments, 11 units, 12 unit apartments in Champaign, Illinois, which are more desirable. And obviously more desirable as far as more people want them, right? Multifamily is a very hot game. And then we get into the forced appreciation of a multifamily. And I think that's the power of multifamily, which I know you guys know about.
When you're saying forced appreciation, do you mean fixing it up basically, or?
Well, I mean, forced appreciation when it comes to residential real estate, the thing 4 units and below is fixing it up. But forced appreciation when it comes to an apartment could be fixing it up. That's certainly one of the things, but it's also the ability to raise rents.
Mm.
The moment I raise rents on a unit, on a property, 5 units or more, the NOI goes up. And so if I can increase the net operating income NOI by increasing my income and decreasing my expenses, I can make more money. For instance, I raised rents on my property $30 a unit because I added free fiber optic internet. Okay. So they didn't have fiber optic internet. It was pandemic. So I thought people working from home, they need really good internet. This would be a good value add. They charge me, let's say they charge me $22 a unit to do the internet. Okay. So it's $22 a unit to do the internet. And I'm going to raise the rent $30. So I make $8 a month, Now you try to go to Comcast and get internet for $30. You're not going to get that. Right. But I was able to offer that, to raise the rent $30 and then make $8 each unit every month. And I feel like it's a win-win. I make some money, and my tenant who would have been paying $50 to $75 for Comcast now has fiber optic internet, much cleaner, much better for streaming and for what people want to do. And it's a win-win. So that's a way to force appreciation as well.
So do you have any other strategies besides raising the rents or the internet?
Well, raising rents. Okay. Number one, to market rent. You always want to buy something that's under rented, right? And sometimes that can throw off your calculations. You're like, oh, I want to buy it for this gross rent multiplier or this cap rate. There's all kinds of ways to evaluate multifamily real estate. But when something's under rented, you'll be like, man, am I paying too much for this based on the rents? But you got to look at more of the potential of what it could be. And so I think getting up to market rent, we don't want to gouge people. We have a lot of working class people. I'm not in this to gouge people. My faith's very important. And so is AJ's faith, my partner, my brother. We never want to gouge people. We don't want to be sky high rents. We don't want to be the bottom of the barrel rents. We want to charge you what a fair rent is. And we want to make sure your property, if you have any issues with the property, is taken care of. So I think market rate rents, number one. I think if there's things that we can do as far as minimizing expenses, a lot of these older buildings do not have a water, they're not separately metered for water. So if it's not separately metered for water, you can't technically charge them for water. But one thing we've done is we've just said, you know what? People are used to paying for water as utility. So let's do a water, trash, sewer fee of $30 a month. And that covers that. And that's a way for you to kind of get around that. So you might say, I'm going to charge you $500 a month for rent. And there's a $30 water and sewer and trash fee on top of that. So now it's $530 basically. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Other ways are you can add storage in the bottom unit. If there's some units, you can charge for parking. One of them I do charge for parking, because it's a very limited parking spots there. And so that's a bonus. So those are some different options that you can do. There's pet fees, how much you want to go on pets and whatnot, really up to you.
Yeah. So this apartment stuff's awesome. I love talking about all that stuff, but kind of wanted to ask about, for like most of our listeners are new to real estate, they don't really know what they're doing, and you guys have had a lot of success. So what would your be like advice to them starting out?
I would just say get in the game. It's like Moneyball with the Oakland A's, right? It's not about hitting a home run. It's about really getting on base. Naeem knows this. And Naeem, am I saying your name right?
Yeah.
Okay. The thing about this is, like, you can look at a playbook all you want, right? And study a defense as a football player a ton. You can watch it on film. You can talk to people about it. You can read books about it. You can watch the Super Bowl. But when you go out there and you walk through it, and then you actually do it and play in a game, it's totally different, right?
Yeah.
What's interesting about football is, like, they have all the levels. You read about it in a playbook, you watch it on film, you walk through it, you practice it, and then you go play in the game, and then you watch yourself on film on it. So you have all these different levels, So what I love about it is, like, I think you got to get into the game if you really want to know how this works. And I recommend getting into the game with a single base hit that cash flows.
Do you suggest like trying to partner with more experienced investors, or is there any other things that you can add to that?
So if you're going to partner, make sure it's a long-term partner, right? Like don't partner with a guy. Like, I don't know if I want to be a long-term. Well, somebody asked me like 3 months ago, do you want to partner on a deal? I was like, no, I don't. I was showing the property. I don't want to partner with this guy for various reasons. And so, yeah, I would say that. I would say start small though. Like there's nothing wrong with getting, I don't know, Ken McElroy, which is Kiyosaki's,
Yep.
real estate
Property-
guru. He's like,
property
why not?
manager.
Why not start with a 50 unit? Why not start with a 100 unit? And I get what he's saying from his perspective, but I think when you're using your own money or maybe borrowing somebody's money and you're trying to figure this out yourself, start with something small. The bigger stuff is going to come, especially when you're young. Like you're going to be fine. But man, I tell you what, you get into the big boy game of 20 units and above, it gets pretty competitive, and you can make some big mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's such great advice. Just start out, just hit a base hit, right? Just get on base. I think that was a great analogy with the money ball.
Yeah, so I think this is a perfect time for us to transition and talking about you being a realtor. Mike is actually currently you have like what?
Yeah, I'm
a
just
couple
studying
weeks?
for the test. I'm going to take it next 2 weeks.
Good.
Joining Craig Curlop's FI team out here in Denver.
Cool. Great.
So
Man.
yeah, so can you just talk about like what that's looked like for you? Are you doing that kind of more full time and then doing the real estate investing on the side, or what's it look like?
So I do a lot of things, right? I mean, I would say real estate sales probably takes up 40 or 50% of my time. A real estate investment is 20, 25% of the time. I also work for a crypto business as well. That takes maybe 10, 15% of my time. I do announcing for Big Ten Network for football games in the fall. So I do a lot of things. I do a lot of entrepreneurial things and whatnot. But as far as getting my real estate license, I realized in 2018, I was grateful for the agents that helped me, but I was running a lot of the math and the calculations by myself, and they're basically opening doors and, negotiating some things for me. And I'm certainly grateful for that, but I just thought I could do this. Right. And I could go see properties whenever I wanted. And so I originally got it because I'm like, I'm just going to do it for my investment properties. Then I realized, I just think just being out there and letting people know you're in real estate, you're going to get 3 to 5 deals a year. Residential. I mean, just being around. I mean, even Mike in Denver, even if you're not from that area or whatnot, or you're building a network, you're going to have a friend that's like, well, I want to buy something, you'll be shocked, And so it's like, so 3 to 5 deals a year. And then I just realized, wow, like I can make some good money doing this. I mean, think about this. I mean, whether it's right or whether it's wrong, real estate agents, they get to tap into maybe the biggest honeypot of wealth in the world, which is American home equity. That's how they get paid. Right. And so there's a lot of money to be made in that. And it has enough moving parts, and people don't do it enough in their lifetime to really be sound when they do it by owner. Certainly there's some people that can do it by owner, right? But if you make a 1% mistake or 2% mistake on pricing your home or anything, it could be a big deal, right?
Yeah.
And so I always tell people, listen, if I don't bring the value that I'm charging you, don't hire me. And the reality is I don't get paid unless I sell your house. Done deal. On the buy side, you can hardly get into a house without having a real estate agent.
Yeah.
The way they have it right now. And so I do believe that everybody says that real estate is going to get disrupted. I think it's being disrupted a little bit now, but the problem is until we figure out a way for somebody to see your house without a third party there with them to make sure that your privacy and your items are protected, it's going to be very difficult to do, because I know it's done in Airbnb all the time right now, but it's a little bit different when you're selling your personal residence.
Yeah. Definitely.
That's really good.
So you've been in sales now with real estate agent, and then coming out, your initial career was you were in sales, right?
Yeah, I was in network marketing where I
Yeah,
recruited like a team, and then I also sold a product. It was supplements and whatnot. And I loved the passive income that I was able to make out of that. So it really got me into residual income. I liked the EXP Realty model, which I'm with now. And EXP has a model where you get revenue share for any agent you recruit. So we got about 60 agents on my team that I make just a small cut off of what they do for me. And those range from, I had a guy sign up in Tampa, a guy sign up in Massachusetts. A lot of guys are in Illinois. But EXP Realty has really exploded, the first cloud-based brokerage of its kind. The commissions are high because we have no physical buildings and the expenses are low. So it's been a good fit for me. And it's been a good fit for my clients where I can be as competitive as I need to be. And I work with about, 40 to 50% investors and 50% retail buyers.
Yeah. That's
So we're
actually the
talking-
team I'm joining is EXP.
Oh, cool. Well, great. I'm glad you're part of the EXP family, man.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
So we're talking a lot about sales right now. What's some of the things that can really set you apart and make you successful in it?
I think first off is just asking. You can't make a sale unless you ask. Hey, who are you using as a realtor? Are you looking to make any real estate decisions for personal residence or investment in the next 6 months? So I think asking the question, getting over that fear. I think, still think calling your network makes sense, and that'll always make sense. But more and more, you've got to have a digital footprint and an expertise around it, where you can say, hey, I'm on YouTube, or hey, I'm on this podcast, and I'm on Facebook, I'm showing properties. I think Gary Vee says it best. Gary Vaynerchuk just says, don't focus on creating, just document what you do. Right. And I think as a real estate agent, documenting what you do, I just walked through a property. It's a foreclosure. And I just did a story on my Insta where I said, hey, like, what's a foreclosure look like? And I walked through it. I immediately got a DM from a guy like, hey, I want to see that property, So just the power of that, like, that's the way we market now. So I think that, and I think Tony Robbins talks about, urban and lurban, and those are just acronyms. Like lurban is an acronym for logical reasons to buy now, a rough acronym, and urban is emotional reasons to buy now. And I think you really have to tap into the emotions, especially when it comes to a home, right? And you're selling a home for residential real estate, it's very emotional. And so when people get emotion involved, it's important to them, and price isn't as important. When we talk about logical reasons to buy now, that's more on the investor side. They get the emotion out of it. And so I deal with both of those, the urban logical reasons to buy now, and then the urban, the emotional reasons to buy now, and knowing how to deal both of those different scenarios.
Wow, that's a gem right there. I like that. And obviously you've been doing really well. I think you told me like a little over $10 million in the last 2 years. So just first off, congrats to you on that, and just keep killing it.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's been good. I mean, the first year I was just trying to get my feet under me. I think I sold $2.5 million. Then the next year, my second year, full year, I did 10 million. And the next year I did 10 million. So,
Wow.
it's been good. And, there's also agents that do 100 million too. So, but what's shocking to me is how many real estate agents don't invest in real estate. And I think that's terrifying to me when you see it and you help other people invest and you're not doing it yourself. I'll say I'll pass on that, So that's just my take on it.
Yeah. I know we're kind of running short on time with you. So I wanted to ask, because I saw this on your first YouTube channel. You guys should go check out Jay's YouTube channel if you haven't yet. It's you just started up, right?
Yeah, I just started it about 3 weeks ago. Yep. Trying to do 2 videos a week.
Nice. Yeah. So I saw you talk about like, you can't be great, or you can't be great unless you start, but you don't have to, or something like that. What was it again? Sorry.
Yeah. So you don't have to be good. You don't have to be good to get started, but you have to get started to get good, or or you put great in there, right? You don't have to be great to get started, but you got to get started to get great.
Yeah.
And, I just feel like, how many things do we wait on? At least me, because it's not perfect enough. Man, I don't know what I would say. Oh, it's so hard to edit my videos in YouTube, or I don't have time for that. But I'm like, forget that. Like, I'm not going to despise the small beginnings. I'm going to just start. And it's just very difficult in life to get better at something and look cool.
Yeah.
So like, if you want to get better, you got to look like a fool. And I think that's tougher as we get older, right? I mean, my kids learn how to walk, and obviously I was bad at football at one time, and I started getting better and better and playing. You get a baseline confidence, right? And I think you got to get to that baseline confidence where you're just like, okay, I'm getting better. There's progress here. And like, man, do I wish I had thousands of views? And I'm sure you guys wish you had thousands of downloads of every week. But like, I'm not looking at it. I'm going to be productive for a year, put my head down and reevaluate. Like, that's what I'm doing. I'm just going to create content, and I'm not going to worry about how good I look.
Yeah, I like that line. Mike and I were talking about that actually probably like a month or two ago, and we just have been like evaluating. We're just like, look, we're going to put our heads down and just create as much content as we can. Like our goal this year is just to create 52 episodes, you know, one for each week. So it just, you know, those stepping stones will lead to, you know, potential success in the future. So I like that a lot.
No, I just love that mindset. I think it applies to so many things, you know, whether it's our podcast, your YouTube channel, or just getting into real estate itself, right?
Absolutely. I mean, it's like people would laugh when I bought that $20,000 property in Danville, Illinois. Oh, it's trash. It's why would you buy in that area? And most people that say that stuff have never owned a property in their life.
Yeah.
Right?
And they're not educated on it too.
Right. They're not educated. They don't know what's going on. They don't know that I don't have to go there ever. I have it professionally managed and I get checks in the mail. So, I mean, like people can do what they want. They can drink all the haterade they want, but hey, at the end of the day, it's what I want. It's my path. It's what I've decided to go on. I'm going to own it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I like that. And then we'll make sure to add the YouTube link too, so people can check you out in the show notes. And then also going off that, you also talk about crypto on your YouTube channel. So I was just curious if you could talk about that just for a quick minute. Like, what are some of your predictions? What's your favorite crypto?
Sure. So first of all, you know, to understand crypto, I don't think people have this misnomer that it's actually a currency. It's not a currency. It's not looking to replace the US dollar. It's not looking to replace anything. Bitcoin maybe has the most things that maybe it could say most of the other coins are not. And it's basically, you know, if you look at the white paper for Bitcoin written by Satoshi Nakamoto, which is a pseudonym, nobody really knows who he is, but, you know, written in 2009, it's just a peer-to-peer way to transfer money that's trustless. We don't need this third party of banks and whatnot. And what we're finding now, though, is that what's even more valuable than the crypto itself is the blockchain technology, in which we can be totally transparent. We can see all the transactions, and we can have miners verify those transactions and whatnot. And so I believe it's the future. It ties back to the inflation of the money supply, which ties back to the creature from Jekyll Island, which I'll talk more about. But there's only ever going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever made. Mm-hmm. Currently, there's about 19 and a half out there, but there's gonna be more mined. But the reality is is that there's been about 3 million lost, we think. So there's gonna be 18 million Bitcoin. If there's 50 million millionaires in the world based on the US dollar, and that number varies all the time, not every millionaire is going to have a Bitcoin. So one Bitcoin is going to be super, super valuable. And it's, you know, once it starts to get institutional backing and people coming over, I saw one of the big accounting firms, KPMG, I think, started saying, we're going to start doing Bitcoin. We saw Morgan Stanley buy in this summer at the banking wise. It's going to be a big thing. So I think Bitcoin will be, I said on my YouTube channel, and you can watch this video, I think it's going to be $1 million between 5 and 7 years. I think that 1 million would be pretty much just like at 500,000 is today because of inflation. Okay. But I do think it's going to be that. I think Ethereum will be in the same time period. We'll get to 20 to 30K. And some of my other ones that I really like, Algorand. I think Algorand has a chance to be the blockchain for the US dollar at some point. I'm not a huge fan of Ripple. I know a lot of people love Ripple. You know, it was great technology when it came out. Not huge. I like Tezos. I like Vet. I like Solana. About who doesn't like Solana right now? It's kind of the darling of it. I don't like the meme coins. I don't like Doge. I don't like Shiba. I think there's profits to be made there for sure. People making a bunch of money off them. I just don't see any great use cases for them other than Mark Cuban saying we're going to accept it in Dallas Mavericks, or Elon Musk saying you can buy a Tesla with it. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. It is the future of finance. And I would just say this, you know, I was around during this time. I don't know if you were, but the dot-com boom, you know, I was 10 years old in 1995, and in 1997, that's what I would say. 1997 is where we're at right now with crypto. So we're not even at the dot-com boom yet as far as crypto goes. That's how early we are in the game. It's only going to get bigger.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. I don't know too much about it, so it's just always cool to hear what, you know, different people have to say about it. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, if you believe that the money supply is being inflated, you definitely need to get into crypto.
Where would someone go to learn more about crypto, would you say? I know you mentioned that white paper, but is there other stuff? Yeah.
So great question. So you can put this in the show notes, but you know, I work with a company called theveteranbroker.co. So that's theveteranbroker.co, not .com, but theveteranbroker.co. And really started by a former, actually, a special forces Army guy who got into crypto and now actually manages over $200 million for other people. Because I realized I don't have time to study all these coins. I'm better at real estate, better at sales, I'm better at recruiting. Let me find somebody who's really good. So I partnered with him, and yeah, it's been great. He's educated me on what's a good coin, why is crypto make sense, why does blockchain make sense. So I would go to theveteranbroker.co, and you could fill out just a questionnaire form and get more information and talk to an expert.
Great.
Awesome.
Last question right before we go to the exit interview questions, but are you in any other type of investments like gold or silver too? Just curious.
I own some physical silver. I have not done gold. I probably should get into gold. Gold over the last 10 years has lost money, but I think that's being manipulated by the market. So I think, the joke is this, is that, gold and silver are God's money, right? The people's money is crypto, right? Because it's decentralized. And, I always say that the greatest return on any kind of asset is real estate and land. I mean, if you were to go 6,000 years ago when people, I don't know, living in Iraq or wherever, and they have a house, that house would still have value today.
Mhm.
Like, that's incredible as it is, right? So and it's something physical. It can't be manipulated. It can be rented out. And so that I did purchase my first piece of virtual real estate in, there's 3 or 4 big metaverses, Decentraland, Sandbox. There's one called D-Vision. That's what I bought one in, and I bought some prime real estate in London, actually in the virtual world. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I'm just trying to learn about it. And supposedly I can have concerts in my virtual world, and I can have advertisements when people go in there. I'm not sure how it's all going to work out, but I'll figure it out.
Yeah. I know nothing about the NFT stuff, but I've seen it everywhere now, and the metaverse and all that. But
yeah,
It's definitely new and just interesting to read about.
yeah, so I know we're short on time, so we're going to move over to the exit interview. It's a couple questions we ask everybody that comes on the show. And so our first one is, do you have a favorite real estate or business book?
sure. Well, I mean, the book that I've been mentioning is The Creature from Jekyll Island, right? I'll say that one. There's a lot of good books. I think that one's different. It's not necessarily a real estate book. It's just the history of the Federal Reserve in the United States,
Mhm.
and how hard they tried to get that bank established, why it failed a couple times before, and how they got it established in 1913, and what they do, and you have to understand how the money supply works to really understand why real estate and why leverage through loans is the way to go and to get wealth. So I would just implore everybody. It's a 500-page book. It's a great book. It's a long read, but man, if you really want to understand what's going on in economic policy today and the Federal Reserve, you've got to read that book. It's going to help you as an investor.
Great. Yeah, we'll make sure to put that in the show notes since it's the favorite. But if you had to restart today, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I would probably get my equity splits a little bit more hammered out. And I would probably, people say like, I shouldn't have sold anything. I'm not a big guy on that. I think if you can make a profit, sell it and 1031 it. And so I would probably just buy more. And so I ask myself now, what could I be doing now? I could buy more. But I think finding the right deals is always difficult. I think the money will come. There's been so many deals where I never knew I was going to get the money, but I got under contract and I got to work.
Great.
So the next question is, as an investor, what is the most important thing to being successful?
Yeah. For me, my whole investing life changed when I committed to, praying and fasting. I prayed every morning for my tenants, and I started fasting actually Mondays for my tenants and my real estate clients. And since then, it's such a startling answer for people that they're like, what? How does that make sense? And I've told people that, how do you find deals? How do you do this? And I just say, it's prayer and fasting. And I'll take that to my grave and say, hey, that's what has really changed a lot of things. My faith's important. And I just believe stuff has gone really well for me since I started doing that. Because I think when you, put others before yourself, you're praying for your tenants, you're fasting, you're trying to say, you know what, God, I want to see them through your eyes. I think God blesses that. And, I've been blessed because of it.
Love it. Fourth question, what's some of your hobbies?
Man, playing with my kids at this stage, I got, 10, 7, and 4-year-olds. So I'm pretty busy. I'm take my kid to boxing here in a little bit. And then, I like to read. I don't have as much time to read as I want. So I'm really trying to study YouTube right now. That's kind of a hobby of mine. Love to go camping with my family up in northern Wisconsin. It's fun. My wife got me into that, was never a camper. Love to coach my kids' football team. I'm not a great flag football coach, but I'm working on it. And I just love to spend time with my kids. I'm really very active in my church, and committed to that as well.
Are you too juiced up as a coach? Is that what the issue is?
I'm a bit. I just don't have any. I just don't have any leniency for lack of effort. I just don't have any of it. Like, I just like, dude, run to the ball. And you don't get that urge. Even in high school, you'll see guys that don't run to the ball, right? And you really understand how to run to the football when you get into college and what effort looks like. And it's working with young kids. It's like their reaction times are very slow. Like, you'll see a guy cut, it'll be like 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and then they'll cut back with them, So like, you can just take 2 steps to the left, and then I'll just tell the running back, go 2 steps to the left, then go right all the way to the sideline. And their reaction's so slow. So just teaching them, hey, the reaction's slow, coaching with them, give good effort, get lined up. If you can get lined up and give good effort, shoot, you can do a lot of good things.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So our next question is there anything right now that our listeners can do to add value to you or your business?
Sure. You can go on, search J Leman on YouTube. That's J, just the letter, and then Leman, Leman. That's my new YouTube channel. You can you can subscribe, you can ring the bell for notifications, as I say in every video. And, you can support me there and share that video. I'm trying to grow there. I'm on Instagram at jlayman47. Facebook, you can look me up as well. Trying to get into TikTok, but man, it's just, there's so many things you can do, right? Yeah. And so I'm trying to delegate that as well. You can look me up on TikTok. I'm not very active on it yet, but a lot of my base, Facebook came out when I was in college. I'm old, and I know nobody cares about Facebook now, but my generation does. So, they're still on Facebook, where everybody else is on Insta or Snap or, TikTok.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that kind of summed up the last question, is where's a good place to find you at? So we'll make sure to add all those different links and stuff just in the show notes. But man, Jay, you've been incredible today. And I know Mike and I were just super excited to get you on, and I see AJ as a mentor to me. So I just really appreciative that you were able to come on and give us some good words of advice and whatnot. So thank you.
Yeah, Naeem, thanks, man. Thanks, Mike. And, AJ is a mentor to a lot of people. I would not be in real estate without him. I vet every deal I do with him. He has a really good perspective on it. And, what I love is that here's a guy that could be a full-time real estate syndicator. He really could be. How smart he is, but it's bigger than that for him. He really loves to teach. I know he prays for his students, and I know he really cares for them. He loves the community there. It's important that he's there. I've had people ask me, why doesn't AJ just go do real estate full time? I was like, he's just a different guy. He's not about, if you knew AJ, it's not about the money for him. It's about loving on people and what's going on with his family. And he truly sees, City High as like a family of his own. So like he loves that school, loves the kids in his class.
Yeah, he's definitely the definition of like Iowa City High. Everybody has huge respect for Leman, Mr. Leman. So just shout out to AJ.
Yep.
Yeah, no, thanks, Jay, for coming on. This is great. Learned a lot, and I think this episode's gonna get good reviews. So.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for the time, man. I really appreciate it. Always good to talk to you guys. And Naeem, good luck with your NFL endeavors, man, and keep your head up.
Appreciate it.